right. Video support for typical test question 10. Let's start by pointing out that this is the test question for topic 5.5, the fifth part of topic 5. Looking now to evidence. One key question for long-run macro is issues of comparative living conditions around the world. And so we want to ask whether in general the idea of per capita GDP and welfare works or not. To what extent does welfare seem to be greater in richer countries than in poorer ones? Or another way of asking it is, are living conditions better in richer countries, or even are people happier in richer countries than in poorer ones? So what we're going to look at as an indicator of welfare, a real foundational indicator, is the infant mortality rate in an economy. This is one of the most widely used indicators of very basic living conditions in a society. It's the ratio of the number of children dying in their first year of life out of 1,000 births. So look down here, for example, the U.S. value of 7, we're saying that we'd expect out of every 1,000 children born in the U.S., 7 of them to die. Look to a place like India and you see 71, 10 times the infant mortality, and just one way of describing the much worse living conditions in India than in the U.S. And of course there's other data available on the web page, and I think that you will not be surprised that the general pattern is that richer economies have better living conditions. You need to be aware of that, but at the same time you need to recognize that not unexpectedly there will be exceptions to patterns in data. And here you need to look, for example, at comparing the U.S. to Sweden, richer country, poorer, richer country, the U.S., a worse outcome in terms of infant mortality. And similarly, comparing South Africa to Albania, or comparing China to India, or comparing Vietnam to India or to South Africa. Those are a bunch of different pairwise comparisons that give us exceptions to the general pattern. A very simple point for you to be able to make, and a very simple point for you to be able to recognize. Let's look at chapter 10. And for this, you would just answer something like definitely false. Those comparisons are showing us exceptions to the general pattern. The general pattern is found by comparing countries like the U.S. and Germany to countries like India or Vietnam, richer countries having lower infant mortality rates, and richer countries generally having better living conditions than poorer ones. Again, false, because the table in these data include these comparisons, which are examples of the exceptions to the general pattern. So maybe we end up with something like this written down if we were in the in-class situation and you folks were writing some little essays for me. As it is, just make sure you can follow the logic here, and you will be tested for recognizing that logic in the usual online fashion. That wraps it up for now. Thanks and goodbye.